Sabine Hoffman was 42 when her life finally seemed to be falling into place. Divorced 3 years earlier from a 15-year marriage that had slowly deteriorated, she lived alone in a cozy apartment in Heidelberg, a university town in southwestern Germany, known for its romantic castle and cobblestone streets that attract tourists from around the world. She was a well-groomed woman with blonde hair, dyed with lighter highlights, always well-dressed, even when going to the supermarket. She worked as an administrative manager at a dental clinic, a stable job that paid well enough to maintain her comfortable but not luxurious lifestyle. Her colleagues described her as efficient, punctual, and a little reserved. Someone who did her job competently but rarely opened up about her personal life. Her 2 children, Max, 19, and Lisa, 16, lived with her ex-husband Thomas Hoffman in the neighboring city of Mannheim. The custody agreement had been amicable, considering the circumstances. Thomas had the children during the week to maintain their school routine, and Sabine had them on the weekends. It was an arrangement that worked, even if it left Sabine with a palpable loneliness during the weekdays. Mom always said she was fine on her own, Lisa would later tell the police, her voice breaking. But I could see it in her eyes. She was tired of coming back to that empty apartment every night. It was this loneliness, this emotional void that so many middle-aged people face after a divorce that made Sabine especially vulnerable to what was to come. The algorithm of destiny. On a rainy night in September 2023, Sabine did something that millions of lonely people do every day. She downloaded a dating app. It wasn't Tinder, she found that too vulgar, but Lovoo, popular in Germany and known for attracting a slightly more mature audience, people supposedly looking for serious relationships. She spent nearly an hour creating her profile, carefully choosing 3 photos, one of her smiling in a cafe, another from a vacation in Italy the previous year, and a third with her children, their faces blurred for privacy. In the description, she wrote, "Independent woman seeking genuine companionship. I love traveling, good food, and deep conversations. If you're honest and have a sense of humor, let's chat." What Sabine didn't know, what most people don't know, is that digital predators study these descriptions like vulnerability maps. Every word, every photo, every detail shared becomes a tool of manipulation in the right hands, or in the wrong hands. Arjun, the perfect profile. It took only 48 hours for Sabine to receive the message that would change and end her life. "Hi, Sabine. Your profile caught my attention not because of the photos, although you are very beautiful, but because of something you wrote, deep conversations. It's so rare to find someone who values that these days. I'm Arjun. I work in technology, and I'd love to get to know you better." The message was perfect, not too direct, not too shy. It complimented her without being excessive. It mentioned something specific from her profile, showing that he had actually read it. And it ended with a gentle invitation, without pressure. Sabine clicked on his profile, Arjun Kumar, 35 years old. The photos showed a well-groomed man with neatly cut black hair, a trimmed beard, and a constant smile. There was a photo of him in a modern office, another traveling, which appeared to be Dubai, and a third at a gym. His description read, "Software engineer from Mumbai living in Germany for 3 years, passionate about technology, fitness, and exploring new cultures. Looking for someone special to share adventures and build something real." It seemed too good to be true, but Sabine, like so many other victims before and after her, decided to give it a chance. "Hi, Arjun. Thank you for your kind message. You're right. Deep conversations are rare these days. Tell me more about yourself." And so it began. The Predator's Manual. Phase 1. Building Trust. What happened over the next 10 days was a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Arjun was no amateur. Every message, every call, every interaction was carefully calibrated to create an accelerated emotional bond, a phenomenon psychologists call love bombing. First, he established consistent communication patterns. Good morning, every morning at 7 a.m. Hope you have a great day, Sabine. Thinking of you. Good night, every night at 10 p.m. Sleep well, my dear. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. This predictability created a sense of security, of reliability. Sabine began to anticipate these messages, to miss them if they were a few minutes late. Then he shared calculated vulnerabilities. In their third conversation, he mentioned his difficult childhood in Mumbai, being raised by his mother alone after his father abandoned them. In their fifth, he talked about how lonely it is to be so far from home, working hard in Germany with no one to share his successes with. These strategic confessions did two things. They humanized him in Sabine's eyes, and crucially, created emotional reciprocity. She felt privileged that he trusted her, and naturally began to share her own vulnerabilities, the painful divorce, the loneliness, the desire to be loved again. Arjun listened, or rather he seemed to listen. "You deserve so much better than this, Sabine," he wrote after she told him about her ex-husband's betrayal. "A man who doesn't value a woman like you is a fool. If you were mine, I would treat you like a queen." Words like these, coming at the right moment, have the power of a drug. Sabine's brain flooded with dopamine and oxytocin every time she saw a notification from him. Neurologically, she was becoming addicted to Arjun Kumar. The first video call, reality or theatre. On the 10th day of conversation, Arjun suggested a video call. Sabine was nervous. She had gotten dressed 3 times, before finally settling on a simple blue dress and light makeup. When the call connected at 8 p.m. sharp, there he was, as handsome as in the photos, smiling broadly, with a well-lit room in the background. "Sabine, finally, you're even more beautiful in person," he said in English with an Indian accent, but perfectly understandable. They talked for 2 hours. Arjun was charming, funny, attentive. He asked questions about her life, her children, her dreams. He shared stories about his work as a software developer for a promising startup in Frankfurt. He showed her his apartment briefly, clean, modern, well-decorated. Everything seemed legitimate. What Sabine couldn't see were the details that a trained investigator would notice. The apartment was very generic, almost like an Airbnb. There were no personal photos on the walls, no items that suggested anyone had actually lived there for 3 years. And that accent, perfectly practiced but with occasional inconsistencies that suggested English was perhaps not his second language, but his third or fourth. But Sabine was not an investigator. She was a lonely, vulnerable woman, desperate to believe she had found someone special. When the call ended, she was floating. She immediately called her best friend, Petra Schultz. "Petra, I think I've found someone special," Sabine whispered excitedly. "He's different. He's kind, thoughtful, and, God, it's been so long since I felt this way." Petra, always the more skeptical of the two, frowned. "Sabine, you've known him for less than 2 weeks, online. Please take it slow." I know, Sabine laughed, a sound Petra hadn't heard in years. "But sometimes you just know you know. I feel like I've known him for years." And that feeling, that irrational conviction that you know someone you've just met deeply, is one of the clearest warning signs of accelerated emotional manipulation. But when you're in it, it feels like magic. It feels like destiny. The warning signs. No one saw over the next 2 weeks the relationship accelerated alarmingly. Arjun started talking about their future together. "I imagine you and me traveling around India, meeting my mom, exploring the temples of Rajasthan," he wrote. "She'll love you, Sabine, just like I'm loving you." Love. Sabine read the word 3 times. It was too soon. But at the same time, her heart raced. "Is it too soon to say that?" she replied, adding a nervous emoji. "When you know, you know. And I know you're special, Sabine. You're the one I've been waiting for." Lisa, her 16-year-old daughter, noticed the change in her mother during one of her weekend visits. "Mum, you're on your phone all the time," she complained. "Who is it?" Sabine blushed. "Just someone I met, a friend." "A friend who makes you smile like that?" Lisa laughed, but there was a hint of concern in her voice. "Are you serious?" "Maybe," Sabine admitted. "He's special. Can I meet him?" "Soon, honey, soon." But soon would never come, because Arjun Kumar was about to implement the next phase of his plan, and that phase would involve turning Sabine's growing love into a weapon against her. It was September 24th, exactly 17 days since the first message. Sabine was at work when her cell phone vibrated with unusual urgency. 3 messages in a row from Arjun, something he never did during her business hours. "Sabine, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please call me when you can." Sabine's heart raced. Something was wrong. She apologized to the patient she was treating and rushed to the bathroom, her hands shaking as she dialed. "Arjun, what happened?" On the other end, his voice sounded different, tense, almost breaking. "Sabine, I didn't want to worry you, but my mother." He paused, and she heard what sounded like a muffled sob. "She's in the hospital in Mumbai. Heart attack. The doctors say it's serious." "Oh my God, Arjun!" Sabine felt tears sting her eyes. She had heard so much about his mother in recent weeks. "Will you be able to go see her?" I bought a flight for tomorrow morning. I need to be there, Sabine. She raised me on her own, you know. She's all I have." Of course, you have to go." "But—" His voice grew even quieter. "The flight is expensive. Emergency ticket. And with her medical bills. Sabine, I hate to admit it, but I'm completely broke until the end of the month. My salary doesn't come in until next week." A heavy silence hung on the line. Sabine knew what was coming next. Part of her, that little voice of self-preservation we all have, whispered a warning. "You barely know him. This is a classic scam." But another part, the part that was in love, that had invested emotionally over the last few weeks, that believed it had finally found something real, silenced that voice. "How much do you need?" she heard herself ask. No, Arjun protested, but there was a rehearsal in his urgency. "I can't ask this of you. I just needed to vent to someone." "Arjun, please." "How much?" A pause. "The flight is brown $200, but I'll figure it out. I'll call friends, maybe get a loan. I have it. I can transfer it now." "Sabine, no, that's too much. Your mother is in the hospital. This is no time for pride. You can pay me back when you can, okay?" And so, in less than 10 minutes, Sabine Hoffman transferred $200 to the bank account of a man she had never met in person. The pattern repeats. Petra Schultz was furious. "Sabine, have you lost your mind? €1,200 to someone you met online 3 weeks ago?" They were sitting in Sabine's kitchen on a Friday night. Petra had come straight from work as soon as Sabine confessed what she had done. "His mother is in the hospital, Petra." "He said his mother is in the hospital," Petra corrected, her voice sharp. "Have you seen any proof? A doctor's report? A plane ticket? Anything?" Sabine was silent. "He showed me a photo of the hospital on WhatsApp." "A photo of a hospital? Sabine, you can Google Mumbai Hospital and get 1,000 photos." "You don't understand." Sabine stood up, agitated. "You don't know him like I do. He's not like that. He's genuine, Petra. I can feel it." "Your feeling just cost us $200, Petra replied, softer now. "Please promise me you'll be more careful, please," Sabine promised. But it was an empty promise, because 3 days later, Arjun was back with another crisis. The escalation. "Sabine, my dear, I have terrible news." It was September 27th, 10 a.m. Sabine was at the office when the video call came in. Arjun's face was pale, his eyes red. My mother. She passed away last night. Sabine felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. No. Oh, Arjun, no. For 20 minutes, she comforted him as he cried. It was convincing, devastatingly convincing. And perhaps because she wanted so badly to believe him, she did. The funeral is tomorrow, he said between sobs. But Sabine, there's a problem. My mother didn't have adequate insurance. The funeral costs, the medical bills. It's all falling on me. I don't know what to do, and there she was again, that moral crossroads. This time, it was $2,500, then another $800 for unexpected legal fees, then $100 to repatriate her personal belongings. In 2 weeks, Sabine had transferred nearly $6,000 to Arjun Kumar. Her son Max found out when he saw bank statements left on the table. "Mom, what is this? Why are you sending so much money to... Who is Arjun Kumar?" The ensuing argument was brutal. Max, a law student, immediately recognized the pattern. "Mum, this is a scam, a classic scam, a romance scam." "It's not!" Sabine shouted, something she rarely did. "You don't understand. His mother died. Then why don't you go visit him? Why doesn't he come here? Why is everything online?" But Sabine didn't want to listen, because listening would mean admitting that she had been foolish, that she had thrown away her savings, that she had chosen a virtual stranger over logic, over reason, over her own children. The fatal invitation. It was on October 3rd, ironically German Unity Day, a national holiday, that Arjun made the proposal that would seal Sabine's fate. "Sabine, mein Liebling, I need to see you. In person. I can't stand being away from you anymore." Her heart leapt. "Finally. I want to see you too. When are you coming back to Frankfurt? Actually, I was thinking differently. How about you come visit me? I'm in Goa right now, taking care of my mother's final affairs. It's beautiful here. Beaches, sunsets. It would be the perfect place for our first real date. Goa, India, thousands of miles from home." Every survival instinct in Sabine should have been screaming. But love, or what she thought was love, is a powerful narcotic. I don't know, Arjun. It's so far away. And expensive. I know, my dear. But listen. You've helped me so much during these difficult weeks. Let me repay you. I'll pay for your ticket. You can stay at my hotel with me. All you need to bring is yourself and that beautiful smile. Petra begged her not to go. Max threatened to call the police. Lisa cried, pleading with her mother to please think straight. But on October 10th, 2024, Sabine Hoffmann boarded a Lufthansa flight from Frankfurt to Goa, India. She would never return home alive. The flight took almost 12 hours with a connection in Mumbai. Sabine could hardly sleep, alternating between excitement and nervousness. She had lied to her children, saying she was going on a wellness retreat with friends. Max didn't believe her, but Lisa, innocent and hopeful, wished her mother a good trip. When the plane finally landed at Goa International Airport at 11:45 p.m. on October 11th, Sabine felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. She picked up her suitcase, just one for a week, and passed through immigration with a 30-day tourist visa. The humid heat hit her as soon as she left the terminal. Even at almost midnight, the temperature was above 82 degrees. She looked for Arjun among the crowd of taxi drivers and families. Nothing. She took out her phone. No signal. Of course, she had forgotten to activate international roaming. Panic began to rise in her throat when a voice called her name. "Sabine? Sabine Hoffmann?" She turned around. But it wasn't Arjun. It was a shorter, older man, around 50, with grey hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Who are you? Where's Arjun?" "I'm Rajesh, Arjun's friend," the man said in heavy English. "He had an emergency, problem with hotel. Sent me to pick you up." Every cell in Sabine's body screamed, "Do not get in that car." But she was exhausted, disoriented, in a foreign country at midnight without internet, and the part of her that still wanted to believe, that had invested so much emotionally and financially, silenced the alarms. Is he okay? Yes, everything's fine. Just a small problem. Come on, car over there. The car was a beat-up white van with no identification. Rajesh took her suitcase and put it in the trunk. Sabine got in the back seat. It was the biggest mistake of her life. The trip to nowhere. The first 20 minutes seemed normal. Rajesh drove in silence, occasionally pointing out sights invisible in the darkness. Sabine tried to ask about Arjun several times, but the answers were vague. Then she noticed they were moving away from the city lights onto increasingly deserted roads. "Excuse me, where are we going?" Arjun said the hotel was in Kandalim Beach. "Change of plans," Rajesh replied, his eyes meeting hers in the rearview mirror. "Better hotel, more private." "I want to talk to Arjun, now." Her voice was firm, but her hands were shaking. "No signal here. We'll be there soon." Sabine tried to open the door. Locked. Child lock activated. "Open this door!" Rajesh accelerated. That's when she saw it. Another man was lying in the front seat, hidden by the darkness. He slowly got up, turning to look at her. It was Arjun. But it wasn't the Arjun from the video calls. This man was thinner, harder, with a scar on his neck that the cameras had never shown. And his eyes, God, his eyes, had none of the tenderness she had seen on the screens. "Hello, Sabine," he said, and even his voice was different. Colder, without the performative affection. "Welcome to India. Arjun, what's going on? Why?" "Silence," he cut her off. "You will do exactly as I say. Do you understand?" I don't understand." He leaned in, his face inches from hers. "You understand perfectly. You have money, you have access to more money. And now you're very, very far from home. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to call your bank tomorrow and transfer $50,000 to my account. And you're going to keep transferring until I tell you to stop. I don't have 50,000. I already gave you everything I had." The slap came so fast she didn't have time to defend herself. Her head hit the window, stars exploding in her vision. "Don't lie to me," Arjun hissed. "You have adult children, an ex-husband with his own business, elderly parents. You will find the money, or the consequences will be very, very bad for you." Sabine was crying now, blood trickling from her lip. "Please, I came because I loved you." Arjun laughed. It was the cruelest sound she had ever heard. "Love? Do you think I could love a desperate old woman like you? You were a job, Sabine, an easy job. And now you're an investment that needs to pay off." The prison house. They drove for another hour, going deeper and deeper into the rural interior of Goa. Finally, they stopped in front of an isolated house, surrounded by palm trees and absolute darkness. There were no visible neighbors. There were no streetlights. There was no one to hear. Rajesh dragged Sabine inside. The house was sparse, a few mattresses on the floor, a table, a dirty kitchen, and 2 more men waiting inside. "This is your new home," Arjun announced, throwing her passport on the table. "You'll stay here until you cooperate fully. My children will look for me. The police—" "Your children think you're at a wellness retreat, remember?" Arjun smiled. "And you yourself turned off your phone's location sharing before you traveled. Paranoia about privacy, you said. Ironic, isn't it?" He was right. She had turned off her GPS, worried that Max was tracking her movements. Now no one in the world knew where she was. "Here are the rules," Arjun continued, taking her phone. "You will post photos of Goa's beaches on Instagram and WhatsApp status, photos that we will provide. You will send messages to your children saying you are having fun. You will pretend everything is perfect. And in private, you will start making money, lots of money. What if I refuse?" He didn't answer with words. He simply waved to one of the men, who opened a side door. From inside, Sabine heard something that froze her blood. Female voices, crying, begging in a language she didn't understand. "You're not the first stupid tourist I've brought here," Arjun said calmly. "And you won't be the last. But you could be the smartest. Cooperate, and in a few weeks when I have what I need, you'll go home. Resist." He left the threat hanging in the air. Sabine looked at her passport on the table, at her cell phone in his hands, at the barred windows she hadn't noticed before, at the door from which those muffled cries were coming, and for the first time she understood completely. She wasn't on a romantic vacation. She was being held captive, and no one in the world knew. For the first 3 days, Sabine was forced to live a digital lie. Every morning, Arjun would show up with her cell phone and a script. "You're going to write, 'Goa is magical. The beaches are beautiful, and I'm finally relaxing. You were right. I needed this break.'" He showed her photos of beaches, probably downloaded from the internet or from previous victims, that she was supposed to post. Sabine typed with trembling fingers while Arjun read every word over her shoulder. A message to Max, another to Lisa, Instagram posts of her perfect vacation, everything carefully orchestrated so as not to arouse suspicion. Lisa replied, "That's great, Mom. You deserve it." Max was more direct. "Where exactly are you? Send me your location." Arjun dictated the reply. "I'm moving around a lot, getting to know different beaches. No fixed plans, just enjoying myself. Relax, son." It wasn't enough for Max, but it was enough to buy some time. At night, Sabine was locked in a small room with 2 other women. One was Polish, about 35 years old, who had been there for 2 weeks. The other was Australian, younger, maybe 28, in captivity for almost a month. "He does this professionally," the Polish woman, Kasia, whispered in the darkness. "I met him on Tinder, same story. Sick mother, emergencies. When I got here—" "How much have they gotten from you?" the Australian Emma asked Sabine. "Almost 6,000 euros before I came. Now he wants 50,000. "I've already transferred 38,000 Australian dollars, Emma said, her voice breaking. "My family mortgaged the house, and he still hasn't let me go." Sabine felt her stomach churn. "So even if I get the money, he won't let you go?" Kasia finished. "Why would he? You know too much, you've seen our faces, you can identify this place." The first rescue attempt, on the 5th day, Sabine made a desperate decision. When Arjun brought her cell phone for another status update, she tried something risky. In the message to Max, she wrote exactly what Arjun dictated, but added something almost imperceptible. "Watching the sunset in Kalangute is wonderful." It was a code only Max would understand. When Sabine and her children were younger, they had an emergency code word, wonderful. If any of them used that specific word, it meant, "I'm in danger. Help me." But would Max remember? Years had passed. Arjun read the message, saw nothing suspicious and sent it. 2 hours later, Max replied as usual, "Cool, Mom, enjoy." Sabine's heart sank. He didn't get the code, or he got it and didn't take it seriously. Either way, she was on her own. But she was wrong. The escalation of violence. On the 6th day, everything changed. Arjun stormed into her room, his phone in his hand. "Your son is asking questions, lots of questions." He called his friend Petra. "She said you didn't mention any trip to India. Did you tell anyone?" "No, I swear I didn't." The punch hit her stomach, knocking the air out of her lungs. Sabine fell to the floor, gasping. "You have 24 hours to get the money," Arjun growled, "or we'll start sending pieces of you back to Germany, starting with your fingers." He wasn't bluffing. Sabine saw it in his eyes. The total absence of empathy, the calculated coldness of someone who had done this before. That night, as she lay on the filthy mattress, her body aching, Sabine made a decision. If she was going to die here, She would at least try to take this monster with her, or at least make sure he was caught. The desperate plan. The next morning, Sabine asked to speak to Arjun. "I'll get the money," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "But not like this. My bank will block suspicious transfers. I need to video call them, prove it's me, that I'm not being coerced." Arjun considered it. "You will read exactly the script I give you. Of course, but I need to seem normal, relaxed. If I'm hurt, they'll be suspicious." It made sense. Arjun agreed. What he didn't know was that Sabine had another plan, a plan that could save her or kill her faster. It was October 17th, 7 days since Sabine had set foot on Indian soil, 7 days that felt like an eternity. Arjun had meticulously arranged everything for the video call with the bank. Sabine was sitting in a chair with a neutral white wall behind her. He had allowed her to shower, fix her hair, cover her bruises with makeup. "You're going to say you're investing in a business," Arjun instructed, his face out of camera frame, but the knife in his hand clearly visible to Sabine. "Real estate in Goa. Unique opportunity. Need to be quick. Got it?" "I understand," Sabine whispered. Rajesh was positioned behind the laptop, ready to cut the connection at the first sign of trouble. Another man was holding Emma and Kasia in another room, hostages, to ensure Sabine didn't try anything. The call began. A bank employee appeared on the screen, a German man in his 40s, combed hair, grey suit. "Guten Tag, Frau Hoffmann. I understand you wish to make a substantial international transfer." "Yes," Sabine replied, her voice surprisingly steady. 50,000 euros to an account in India. That is a significant amount. For security reasons, I need to confirm a few details. What is the purpose of this transfer?" Sabine took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Investment in property," she said, exactly as rehearsed. But then her hands moved to the necklace she wore, a small crucifix her mother had given her years ago. She began to fiddle with it nervously, a gesture that would seem natural, but it wasn't random. She squeezed the crucifix 3 times. Pause. Twice. Pause. 3 times again. SOS. The most basic Morse code. The one everyone knows. The bank clerk frowned slightly but continued. "And you are making this transaction freely, without coercion?" "Yes," Sabine replied. Her hands remained on the necklace. 3, 2, 3. "Frau Hoffmann, are you all right? You seem nervous." Arjun shifted, tense. His hand tightened on the knife. "I'm just anxious," Sabine said quickly. "It's a lot of money. But yes, I want to make the transfer. 3, 2, 3. The clerk looked at her for a long moment. His eyes moved from her face to her hands, to the necklace, back to her face. "I see," he said slowly. "Frau Hoffmann, for a transaction of this magnitude, we will need additional documentation. Can you email us copies of the property contract and the seller's identification?" Arjun began to wave violently for her to refuse. "I don't have those documents right now," Sabine said. "Then, unfortunately, I cannot process this transfer today. Please gather the documentation and contact us again. Have a good day, Frau Hoffmann." The call ended. The punishment Arjun exploded. "You were signaling. I saw you fiddling with that thing." "No, I was nervous. The blow knocked her from her chair. Sabine felt something crack in her rib, pain exploding through her body. "You tried to screw me over," Arjun yelled, kicking her repeatedly. "You tried to alert them. Please, please stop." But he didn't stop. Not until Rajesh intervened. "Arjun, stop! You're going to kill her before we get the money." Arjun finally backed off, breathing heavily. "Lock this cow in the basement. No food. No water. Let's see if 3 days in the dark improves her attitude." They dragged Sabine to a damp, dark basement and threw her onto the cold concrete floor. The door slammed shut. Total darkness. Sabine lay there, each breath an agony because of her broken rib, her body covered in bruises. But strange as it seemed, she felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. Because that bank employee had seen. She was sure of it. The way he looked at her, how he prolonged the conversation, how he created bureaucratic obstacles to the transfer. He had understood the SOS. The question was, would he do anything about it? Meanwhile, in Germany, Max Hoffman couldn't sleep. Something was wrong with his mother's messages. Very wrong. It wasn't just the word wonderful. It was everything. The tone was different. The photos seemed generic. And then Petra called, saying that Sabine had never mentioned any trip to India. At 3 a.m. on October 18th, Max finally made a decision. He called the police. "My mother is missing, or in danger, in India." The officer on duty, Sebastian Weber, was initially skeptical. "Mr. Hoffman, your mother is sending messages, posting photos. She seems to be on vacation." "No, something is wrong. I know it is." "Do you have any concrete evidence of danger?" Max hesitated. A family code from 10 years ago? Strange Instagram posts? A gut feeling? "No," he admitted, defeated. "But then, unfortunately, there's not much we can do. Your mother is an adult. She's in another country voluntarily. She's with a man she met online a month ago." "That's not a crime, sir. If we have actual evidence of kidnapping or coercion, we can contact Indian authorities. But until then..." The call ended with empty promises to monitor the situation. Max punched the wall in frustration, but 2 hours later, his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Herr Hoffmann? This is Klaus Bergmann from Deutsche Bank. I just had a very disturbing video call with your mother. I believe she may be in danger." Max sat up straight. "What? What happened?" "She tried to make a $50,000 transfer to India, but during the call, she signaled SOS in Morse code. I have a recording of the call. And Mr. Hoffman, she has bruises that the makeup didn't completely hide." Finally, someone believed him. "Have you contacted the police?" "I'm calling them now. But I called you first because, Mr. Hoffman, we don't have much time. Whoever is holding your mother will realize that the transfer has been blocked. They will be furious." Max felt his blood run cold. "What do I do?" "Nothing. Leave it to the police. I'll send them the recording right away. They'll contact Interpol, Indian authorities. How long will that take?" A long pause. "In international cases, days, maybe weeks." "My mother doesn't have weeks," Max whispered. And he was right. Because at that moment, 6,000 kilometers away in a dark basement in Goa, Sabine Hoffman was struggling to breathe, each inhalation agony, her body cold and broken. And above her she could hear angry voices. Arjun was planning something final. Sabine spent 2 days in the basement. No food, just a few sips of dirty water that Rajesh threw through an opening in the door. The fever started on the second day, the result of her broken rib piercing something internal, or perhaps just infection from untreated wounds. She drifted between consciousness and delirium. In her lucid moments, she thought of her children, of Lisa, so young and full of life, of Max, always the protector, always worried. She hated herself for not listening. "Mum, don't go," Lisa had begged. "It's a scam," Max had shouted. "Please, think straight," Petra had pleaded, but she didn't want to listen. And now, here she was, dying in a filthy basement thousands of miles from home, a statistic in an international network of exploitation that no one really wanted to face. On the morning of October 20th, the door opened. Blinding light flooded the space. "Get up," Arjun ordered. His voice was strangely calm, cold, decisive. Sabine tried to stand, but her body didn't respond properly. Rajesh came down and dragged her up the stairs. Each step was a new agony. They put her in a chair in the main room. Emma and Cassia were there too, both terrified. Arjun lit a cigarette, studying the three women like a farmer inspecting cattle. "We have a problem," he said casually. "The German police have contacted the authorities here. Someone tipped them off." His eyes fixed on Sabine. "And although the Indian police are, let's say, easily distracted by bribes, we can no longer keep you here." "Then let us go," Emma pleaded. "We've already given you everything. We won't say anything." Arjun laughed. "Do you think I'm stupid? You've seen our faces. You know this place. You know too much." The silence that followed was more deafening than any scream. A monster's decision. "Tonight, we're going on a trip," Arjun announced. "A little boat trip. The three of you, us, and the ocean. It's very deep around here, you know, and full of sea creatures that feed on anything." Sabine closed her eyes. So this was how it would end. Not in a dramatic investigation, not in a last-minute rescue. Just drowned in the ocean, her body never found, her children never knowing what really happened. "Please," she whispered, "at least let me send one last message to my children, to tell them I love them." Arjun considered it. Why not? One last message from wonderful Goa. The sarcasm dripped from his voice. He knew about the code now. He took her phone and typed it himself. "My loves, this trip has made me realize how much you mean to me. Always be strong, take care of each other, and know that every choice I made was because I wanted to believe in love. Sometimes I was wrong. Forgive me. I love you infinitely. Mom." It wasn't exactly what Sabine wanted to say, but it carried enough truth. Arjun sent it. The unexpected intervention. But while Arjun was preparing his final plan, something was happening that he hadn't anticipated. Klaus Bergmann, the bank employee, hadn't just contacted the German police. He had done more, much more. As a former military man with contacts in international security, Klaus had activated a private network, people who operate in the shadows where official bureaucracy is too slow. Within 36 hours, he had located the approximate area in Goa where Arjun's previous transfers had been received. He had traced the IP address from which Sabine had made the video call. He had identified the pattern, and he had contacted a private rescue group operating in India. Former military personnel, former police officers, people who didn't wait for international paperwork. At 6:30 p.m. on October 20th, as Arjun dragged the three women into the van, 3 cars blocked the exit road. What followed was quick and brutal. Rajesh tried to pull out a gun. He was shot in the leg with a non-lethal bullet before he could aim. The other men were overpowered in seconds, professionals dealing with violent amateurs. Arjun tried to run, using Sabine as a shield. "Shoot her, not me," he shouted in Hindi, his civilized mask completely removed. But Sabine, with her last reserve of strength, drove her elbow into his ribs. It wasn't much, but it was enough to destabilize him for a second. A second was all the rescue team needed. The hospital and the final truth. Sabine woke up 3 days later in a hospital in Panaji, the capital of Goa. Her body was connected to multiple IVs. Max was at her bedside, holding her hand, tears streaming silently down his face. "Mom," he whispered when she opened her eyes, "you're alive. You're safe." "Emma? Cassia?" Her voice was a hoarse growl. "Safe. They're being treated. You saved them all, Mom. That SOS code." But the victory was bittersweet. Because while Sabine survived, she survived broken. 3 fractured ribs, internal bleeding, psychological trauma that would take years to process. And she wasn't Arjun Kumar's only victim, if that was even his real name. The subsequent investigation revealed something horrifying. He had done this to at least 15 women over the past 4 years. Some paid and were released. Others, as almost happened to Sabine, simply disappeared. Bodies never found. Cases never solved. Families never finding closure. Arjun and his network were arrested and faced charges in India and Germany, but the damage was done. Epilogue: the message that remained. Sabine Hoffman returned to Germany on November 2nd, 2024, exactly 22 days after she left. But the woman who returned was not the same one who had left. She spent 6 months in therapy. She slowly rebuilt her relationship with her children. She never opened a dating app again. And in March 2025, she did something courageous. She went public with her story. "I was smart," she said in a televised interview that went viral. "I was educated. I thought I would recognize a scam. But professional predators are just that, professionals. They study vulnerability like a scientist studies cells. And anyone can be a victim if the right predator finds the right weakness at the right time." Her message saved lives. Women who were about to fly off to meet online boyfriends recognized patterns. Families intervened before it was too late. But Sabine was never completely whole again, because some wounds, especially the invisible ones, never fully heal. Sabine Hoffman survived, but only physically. The woman who returned from India had left pieces of herself in that dark basement, and no amount of justice could bring them back. If you or someone you know is in a similar situation, contact the police, Interpol, or anti-human trafficking organizations immediately.